I'm going to be talking for half an hour or so, feel free to find me the page in there where it says that you have due right to question my decisions. But no, carry on looking. You've got half an hour. Good luck. All right? You've asked my opinion, I've given an opinion on a situation. So we have different beliefs on what's good behaviour, what's bad behaviour. I think it comes from a cultural change. I'm 45 in the summer, and I think back to when I was a kid, and I was sort of 12, 13. It used to frighten me witless when the local policeman came past. And even now, to this, I drove up here this morning, I didn't have a drink last night, I'm driving within the speed limit, I'm taxed, I'm insured. I passed 2 police cars and it frightened the life out of me. Because culturally, I come from a generation where you used to think, I've done something wrong. I used to go home from school, having been in trouble, and I'd go to my parents and I'd say, I got in trouble today, and their first question was, what did you do wrong? Not, okay, let's get down to school, that teacher, we're going to have him blocked. There's a cultural change. And it hasn't just gone from here to here. There's been a slow progression over, I don't know, 15, 20 years. It's a cultural change, okay? And I think that if you take that point when I was 12 or 13, you take now, there's a huge difference in respect for game officials in this instance that we're talking about. So, how do we as referees deal with that lack of respect, if you like? What are the tools that we've got available to us? Well, the first thing I try and talk about, I spend some time, Roger's obviously the national instructor, but I spend quite a lot of time mentoring both at the local league but also with the likes of Marcin and people like that coming through into BBL, sort of rookie referees, for want of a better expression. And I always say to them, and Marcin, feel free to come up and punch me in the throat if this is incorrect. I always say to them that there are 2 types of things that will be said to you in a game. There are questions and there are statements. Was that a foul?
Probably not.
Thank you.
If we're on defence.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. What did I do wrong? They're questions, right? Call the foul, ref. Does that deserve an answer? Call the foul. How do I answer that? Call the foul, ref. Sorry, let's have a conversation in basic English. Call the foul. There's no answer to that.
It wasn't a foul.
But I'm not soliciting an answer, am I?
No.
Call the foul. Okay? So what we do is we develop a selective deafness. If you make a statement, it's your opinion. Carry on. Not a problem with your statement, as long as it's not overt and there's not too much profanity in it. It's a statement. So we tend to ignore statements as much as possible. Well, not if Tony's coaching, because his statements are not necessarily based in English, are they? Most of them have got some profanities in them, as you well know, John. But when we get asked a question, it would be really rude of us not to answer that. Why wasn't it a foul? My answer to that is slightly different to Roger's. I'll tell you a little story about when Roger would say, because I didn't blow my whistle. Now, it's an acceptable answer. I'm not agreeing entirely with it. I can tell you some other stories about things you said during games, but I won't. So we try not to answer statements as much as possible. So my advice to you, coaches, as players, as our fellow referees, when people, if you want information from a referee, ask them a question. Don't make a statement. That's a foul. In your opinion is, not in mine. Okay? What else have we got at our disposal? I won't take these in any particular order, but we can talk and we can advise. And one of the things, again, I speak to Marcin and people about all the time is I will often say to people, you know, try and talk them out, and this is something Roger taught me from day one, was try and talk people out of scenarios. So, situation with paint, and I'm on lead, excuse me. Get out! Get out! Hey, big man, get out the key. Okay? Now, I'm making the game easier for myself, because I don't want to be the centre of attention and call the foul and call 3 seconds all the time. but I'm also giving it a degree of consistency. Because if I do that on every play, then I know I'm being consistent. Okay? So we try and talk with, hey, hands off, hands off. Now, what have I just done? If he doesn't get his hands off, if he doesn't get out of the key, beep, 3 seconds. I told you 3 times. What more do you want? Okay, so we can talk and we can advise. We'll often speak to people during a game, and you might, going up court or coming out after a timeout, hey, big man, watch your elbows in there, or one hand in the post, don't extend it. Thanks, ref. Okay? Bit of rapport going on. So that's a good way of doing it, but you have to be careful. My good friend Mr. Harrison told me when I first started refereeing that you have to be very careful who you talk to, didn't you? And it will come back to bite you in the backside. I sat out 2 games last weekend because I had the audacity to try and talk people out of a situation, which then ended up with me using a profanity towards a coach. What I believe to be an industrial discussion, but he didn't take it as such, so I had to sit my backside down for a week. Now, tried to talk, I tried to advise him out of the situation. He turned that against me. So talking and advising helps us lots of the time, but not always. Now somebody like John, who's an approachable guy, we could have a conversation during a game, and I might say, John, excuse my name, John, tell him to shut the fuck up, will you? You can probably take that on board. Not everyone will. Some people will turn that against you. So talking and advising helps us sometimes, but not always. So what else can we do? We can ignore it. Why should I? You're sitting in the pub, you're having a nice quiet drink with your friends. That's rubbish, what are you doing? Why have you done that for? What are you having that drink for? How long are you going to ignore that for? Not long. And I'll back off at that point. Why should we? Why should we ignore that as officials? Why should we ignore that? Particularly when you... Discussion with Roger before I came up here, I won't tell you the amount, but when I tell you that as referees in the BBL, we are, by quite some distance, the lowest paid officials in Europe, Rogers. Okay? Why should I go along? Hey, listen, I'm going to get 400 people calling me every name under the sun. That I've got to deal with. Why should I listen to every single player and coach calling me every name under the sun? Why should I ignore it? I'll try to a degree. Don't have to. Again, you've got the books there, guys. Find the page in which it says that you can criticise and shout and swear at me, and I can't do anything about it.
It says it in the coach's manual.
Page 1. Good work, good work. Okay. We can use, the obvious thing that we can do is we can use technical fouls, okay? And down as coaches you will receive several. And if Roger's been officiating, you'll have received more than several. So we can use that. But again, it's something we try and do we try and use it in a sensible way. For instance, team's up by 50 points. It's 2 minutes to go. Bullshit, ref, bullshit! What good does it do anybody for me giving a tee or throwing the guy out? It's a 50-point game. So it actually hasn't done any of us any favours in that respect. If I throw him out, it's actually cost me 2 hours of my time writing out a report for nothing as well. So we might cop a definite that. We might, Roger probably wouldn't, some of us might. Okay? 2-point game, 30 seconds to go. Bullshit, ref, bullshit. Ah, thank you very much. Now I'm in charge, aren't I? You want a technical foul? Is this a good time for you to get one? It's a 2-point game. No? Okay. Shut him up then. Okay? So we try, where possible, to use an understanding and some empathy. Doesn't always work, because, go back to what we said originally, we all have tolerance levels. And sometimes it's just gone on too long. But we do try and have some empathy. We could, if we really wanted to, go for ritual embarrassment. Give you an example of two situations. Local league, both of these, obviously, because I can't say that they were BBL or EB games with a national instructor sitting there, but they were both local league games. First one, French guy, joined our local league 3 or 4 seasons ago. Very, very good player, way above the level of our local league. 25, 30 point a game guy, never picked up a foul. Playing towards the end of the season, they had to play the team in second twice in the space of 4 weeks, and the league was on the line. First game's going they were about 8, 9 up. He got a foul against him. Fuck you, referee. Thank you. Thank you. Have that. Okay. Starts to walk off court. Oh, thank you. Can I have another one? He got 5 technicals from him in the space of 20 seconds. He punched the door on the way out. He threw something back on the court. I could have disqualified him, obviously. Another 2 hours of my time writing up a report. He got 5 Ts. What did that mean? 10 foul shots. How many were they up? 8. Whose fault? Who will learn from that? I didn't learn from it. He certainly did. Came up at the end of the game and he apologised. Okay. In the same game, right at the start of the game, player on the other side got a technical foul from my co-official. Sat on the bench, picked up his drink bottle, bang, threw it at the wall. Got another one. How many technical fouls can you have in a game? Roger, you can keep quiet. Martin, you can keep quiet. How many technical fouls can you get in a game as an individual?
Probably 8, isn't it?
Well, as an individual.
5.
Spot on. Honest here, come on. Who thought it was 2 and you were out? No one? Really? No one thought it was 2 and you're out? Lots of people do. So he sat on the bench for the rest of the game. He was under the misapprehension that he was out of the game. This is a game between the top 2 teams in the league. So he sat the rest of the game out. He came up to me at the end of the game and he said, "Why did you disqualify me?" "No one disqualified you, Andy. You got 2 technical fouls." "Oh no." So 4 weeks later they're playing each other again for the league decider. Surprise, surprise, 5 minutes into the game, because Andy's got a slight problem with his vocabulary, it's quite limited, and he managed to pick himself up a technical foul. Surprise, surprise, as he went to the bench, he kicked his water bottle. Thinking he was only going to get a technical foul, what did we do? Bang, there you go. Okay? So, we use our feel for the game, we use our understanding of and empathy with people, okay, and try and keep the lid on things through that. So, elements of behaviour and problems within and how we deal with it. So what do I think causes that? What do I think causes bad behaviour? You know, I think the biggest thing that causes bad behaviour? 2 here. First, and one's very much what John was alluding to earlier. The first one is a complete and utter frustration at one's own failings. Because we live in a blame culture. How many of you at work, as soon as you do something, somebody's on your case, you've done something wrong? We live in a blame culture now. Okay? So when you've done something wrong in the game, it can't be your fault. It's got to be somebody else's fault. It's got to be the referees. They're the ones you can blame. So, we live in this blame culture, and I'll give you an example of that. We did referee a game down at Guildford 3 or 4 weeks ago, Guildford-Sheffield. Okay? Guildford are up by 2. Now, we're all basketball people here. I want you to think what you're going to do in this instance. Guildford are up by 2, with 5 seconds to play. They have the ball, they are fouled. They've got 2 foul shots. They hit the first one. They're up by 3 with 5 seconds to play. They miss the second one. Sheffield rebound the ball under their own basket. What are you going to do with your knowledge of basketball, with 5 seconds to go, up by 3, in the penalty, the ball under your opponent's basket? What are you going to do at that point?
You might make a foul.
You might do, mightn't you? Who would make a foul at that point? Who wouldn't have thought about it? Who wouldn't make a foul? Okay? So, Sheffield run the ball down court. Guy launches himself from outside the 3-point line, throws up an absolute Hail Mary, banks in. We go to overtime. Who did they blame? Us. It wasn't a 3-point shot. He towed the line. You know